Forget everything you know about history's villains. Maniacs, despots, monsters. Humanity has never lacked them, but some took it to another level. Presidents who turned diplomacy into fistfights, to envoys who worshipped death, and the one man with the power to end us all. Who really left the deepest scar on history? On today's episode of the Infographics Show, we're revealing the worst person in history, and it's not who you think. Number 10. Luis Garavito was history's most prolific serial killer, a man so monstrous that in his native Colombia he was nicknamed the Beast. He's believed to have murdered over 200 victims from 1992 to 1999 and was convicted of killing 142. The magnitude of his crimes were so disgusting and severe, when he was first sentenced back in 2001, he was given over 1,800 years in prison. Because his victims were all Colombian peasant children, his name is rarely spoken in the same breath as Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, or John Wayne Gacy. But Garavito murdered more innocents than all those monsters combined. His modus operandi was luring his victims in with money or gifts before assaulting, torturing, stabbing, and dismembering them. And the fact that this nightmare is only at number 10 on our list will give you an idea of just how bad it's gonna get. Garavito confessed to 221 killings and was convicted of 142. It's likely he abused and traumatized many more people than that. Given that his killing spree only took place back in the 90s, there are hundreds of families still grieving from his actions. Garavito died back in 2023, months before he was actually eligible for parole, and this was a saving grace. In a prison interview, he claimed that once free, he wanted to be a politician, a pastor, or even help abused children. Let's be honest, who's gonna believe that? Let's stay in South America for a guy whose crimes are unimaginably worse. Number 9. Augusto Pinochet. The Chilean military dictator Augusto Pinochet was such a horrifically sadistic leader that Wikipedia has its own page dedicated to human rights abuses in Chile under Augusto Pinochet. After taking high command of the nation in a coup back in 1973, he began a reign of terror against anyone who dared oppose him, in action, word, or even thought. Under the guise of fighting back Marxism, Pinochet ripped up Chilean freedoms and tortured and murdered with abandon. Under his incredibly corrupt regime, Pinochet vacuumed up millions from the national coffers to enrich himself. And if he didn't seem like enough of a supervillain, he ran a private execution squad known as Caravana de la Muerte, or the Caravan of Death. He's left a legacy of blood and pain as one of the most brutal modern dictators of the late 20th century. By most common accounts, Pinochet had almost 2,300 people executed, over 27,000 tortured, and 200,000 people exiled and detained. For the people of Chile, Pinochet destroyed democratic norms and created national scars and divisions that people still suffer from today. Many people who committed crimes against humanity on Pinochet's behalf still walk free today. Pinochet took an express trip to hell back in 2006, but many Chileans whose families never faced his torture or killings still look back fondly on Pinochet's so-called law and order. And that is the danger. Someone else could follow in his footsteps. But when it comes to homicidal leaders, Pinochet could actually learn a thing or two from a certain monster that you might have seen recently on a $20 bill. Number 8. Andrew Jackson's 41 years in politics from 1796 to 1837 were less a career and more a bar fight that never ended. Just like Pinochet, Jackson has his own Wikipedia page titled List of Violent Incidents Involving Andrew Jackson. He was obsessed with dueling with people who insulted him. It was like a hobby for him. He regularly got into fights with people where his weapons included but were not limited to whips, canes, blades hidden inside of canes, axes, clubs, pistols, and rifles. Oh, and then came the genocide. Jackson was the architect behind the deservedly infamous Trail of Tears, the violent displacement of the Cherokee, Choctaw, Seminole, Muskogee, and Chickasaw Native Americans from their land in the southeastern U.S. And it was all due to his advancement of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. This was part of a wider spate of ethnic cleansing against indigenous Americans that started all the way back when America was first colonized. But there is one detail that makes it even worse. Part of the reason he wanted the land cleared was to build more slave plantations, because he was an avowed slaver too. While he's got his defenders, all of this and more is why many historians like to dub Andrew Jackson America's worst president. It was rumored that Jackson fought up to 100 duels, though historians say that number is much less. He likely killed many more during his military affairs, and from the Trail of Tears alone, he killed between 13,000 and 17,000 people, with over 60,000 displaced from their homes. And his legacy still lingers today. For Native peoples in the U.S., disenfranchisement and poverty remain daily struggles, and for Black Americans descended from those Jackson enslaved, the wounds of his actions are still very much open. But Andrew Jackson had the highest office in all of America. What about someone who could massacre even more people with a fraction of Andrew's power? Number 7. Oskar Dirlewanger was a German officer during World War II. And if his name sounds a little silly, well, consider his nicknames: the Butcher of Warsaw and, bizarrely, Gandhi. But Dirlewanger preferred Nazi Germany's most extreme executioner. He was backed by a brigade of psychopaths just as evil as he was. They followed his every command, with Hitler's power behind him, and all of Eastern Europe as his demented playground. The infamous Dirlewanger Brigade is considered one of the most unforgivable military groups in European history, which you will know is a hell of a thing to say if you know anything about European history. It was formed out of violent criminals recruited from prisons in Nazi territory. They were given free rein to slaughter and torture in Poland, Belarus, and Slovakia, killing scores of people and doing worse to the survivors. And Dirlewanger himself was equally happy to torture and murder his own men if they displeased him. Young women were especially targeted whenever he and his monsters roamed, and he was known to abuse and kill them when he got bored. The Dirlewanger Brigade are thought to have killed from 30,000 to 120,000 people during their rampages in Belarus. Their involvement in the Wola massacre adds as many as 50,000 more to the count, and untold thousands in the violent suppression of the Slovak national uprising of 1944. Like all Nazis, his legacy of hate and anti-Semitism are sadly revered by modern neo-Nazi groups who hope to carry forward his work. But thankfully, Dirlewanger and his sadistic troops can't cause any more harm today. His group collapsed with the end of the war, and he was captured in May 1945. He died of natural causes not long after in prison, though we're sure that his Polish guards made sure he was treated very nicely up until then. But Dirlewanger isn't the last person on our list who made his scars on history during World War II. And unlike Dirlewanger, he never even got punished. Number 6. World War II was an amazing time to reveal yourself as either a profoundly brave, heroic soul or an evil, sadistic maniac. And Shiro Ishii had no trouble picking option 2. Like many on the list, he was a monster both personally and publicly, thoughtless with colleagues, and a shameless sycophant to his bosses. But that's not why he's here. This Japanese microbiologist's claim to fame is being the boss of a facility now infamously known as Unit 731. It's a place that lives on in horror for being a site of unimaginably brutal human experiments on Chinese prisoners. These included infecting children with the plague, testing chemical weapons on crowds of innocents, brutal frostbite experiments, deliberate starvation, and even using guns and swords on prisoners just to see how well they maimed and killed. When Japan surrendered and pulled out of China, Ishii had his men massacre all the surviving prisoners at Unit 731 and burned all the files. He was able to escape without consequence after cutting an immunity deal with the Americans in exchange for sharing some of the information he found in his nightmarish studies. The direct experiments at Unit 731 caused the deaths of at least 10,000 people, but they also helped create biological weapons that killed a further 200 to 300,000 people. While China was able to rebound after World War II, many will have lost ancestors from the horrific tests at Unit 731. But Ishii's influence hasn't disappeared. The chemical weapons tested at Unit 731 may be outlawed, but they still exist in stockpiles today. Hopefully, we won't ever have to see them again. Our next monster is also a medical man, but while he never cut anybody open like Ishii, his potential for damage might just haunt us for decades to come. Number 5. Andrew Wakefield is a dangerous con artist who's behind one of the most common nonsense conspiracy theories, that the MMR vaccine causes autism in children. This has since blown up and expanded to skepticism around all vaccines. And it would be one thing if Wakefield actually believed in the snake oil that he was selling, but the motivation was pure greed. The phony scare around the MMR vaccine was meant to drive people over to his own patented alternative, but seeing as that failed, he just decided to make being a vaccine grifter his full-time career instead, spreading his poison at anti-vaccine rallies across the globe. In the United States alone, a study identified 232,000 deaths during COVID-19 that could have been prevented with vaccinations had the people chosen to get them. But the global death toll from those who refused vaccines and died as a result is impossible to calculate. Not only have people lost family members, often children, to Wakefield's vaccine skepticism, he's also damaged the herd immunity that can protect all of us, all while creating a truly disgusting stigma against people with autism. Scientists speculate that thanks to climate change, we'll be seeing more zoonotic diseases and global pandemics in the future. And if the next one is even more virulent and deadly than COVID-19, the Grim Reaper might just need to buy Andrew Wakefield a beer. And it was a close call, but we think our next medical monsters might be even more despicable. Number 4. Described by some as the most evil family in American history, the Sacklers are the billionaires behind Purdue Pharma. Their greatest hit is a little drug called OxyContin, a commonly prescribed opioid that is as dangerous as it is highly addictive. Not only did they create the drug, they lobbied for its increased prescription for all kinds of aches and pains in order to maximize their profits. And this was one of the driving forces behind the opioid epidemic in North America, widely considered one of the darkest public health crises the U.S. has ever faced. To add insult to injury, after Purdue folded from all the lawsuits, the Sacklers won civil immunity, protecting their personal fortune. So from here on in, they won't have to worry about any further personal consequences. From 1999 to 2020, around 500,000 died from opioid-related overdoses, and hundreds of thousands more have likely died in the 5 years since. And there are no signs of the opioid overdose epidemic slowing down anytime soon. We're still living in the middle of the opioid crisis, with hundreds of people overdosing every day and thousands more suffering from active addictions. This causes both physical and financial pain for the people in those conditions, as well as everyone they know. This is particularly severe in economically disenfranchised rural areas, making it even harder for them to actually get out from under the thumb of poverty. Most of the so-called war on drugs has focused on stopping fentanyl from crossing the southern border, but far less attention has gone into cracking down on overprescription or putting real regulations on Big Pharma. And that's why the opioid epidemic isn't going away anytime soon. The Sackler family left scars all across America, but unlike our next candidate, they can't lay claim to massacring almost a quarter of their country's population. Number 3. Being a genocidal madman isn't a contest. But if it was, Pol Pot would absolutely smoke everyone that preceded him on this list. The leader of the Khmer Rouge movement, he wanted to return the country to its proud agricultural roots, a year zero of unlimited potential, and his method of trying to get there was the Cambodian genocide, the largest act of industrialized mass murder since the Holocaust. Undesirables were dragged out to killing fields, where they were horrifically massacred en masse by Khmer Rouge troops. Pol Pot had the genuinely insane belief that all previous cultures and belief systems needed to be wiped out in order for the new agrarian revolutionary culture to replace it. And until the Khmer were driven out of power in 1979, any act of bloodshed was permissible for them to reach that diluted utopia. The Cambodian genocide slaughtered anywhere from 1.5 to 3 million people, dwarfing the deaths of every preceding person on this list by an order of millions. For the people of Cambodia, the atrocities of Pol Pot's genocide has caused national trauma that still remains today, doubly so for the Cambodian diaspora forced out of the country by persecution. Designers of the Cambodian genocide still exist, and while Pol Pot himself died back in 1998, his crimes set a dangerous precedent for future mass killings, like the Bosnian and Rwandan genocides, and who knows what's next. Our next guy was also behind unspeakable horrors in Cambodia. The difference is, he wasn't so small-minded just to stop there. Number 2. The late Anthony Bourdain put it best. Once you've been to Cambodia, you'll never stop wanting to beat Henry Kissinger to death with your bare hands. Kissinger, a political theorist and national security advisor under Nixon and Ford, thought of himself as a political realist, and that meant supporting countless atrocities and propping up oppressive regimes, all in the name of U.S. geopolitical supremacy. Critics argue that he prolonged the Vietnam War by advancing Nixon's agenda, killing countless people. His bombing of Cambodia not only killed tens of thousands of Cambodians, it also created the political conditions for pal Pol Pot to ascend to power. He supported a massacre in Bangladesh in the 70s. He supported ethnic violence in Cyprus, supported a brutal dictator in East Timor, shipped arms used in massacres by Israel, endorsed fascist leaders in Argentina. And those were just the warm-up acts. He gave legitimacy to the apartheid state in South Africa with a visit. He engaged in apologism for the Tiananmen Square massacre in China. And he also supported a coup that helped Pinochet rise to power in Chile. It's kind of like the Avengers of psychopathic warmongers. Some tallies of the collected incidents that Kissinger was involved in bring the death toll to as high as 3 million people. In many ways, Kissinger is the architect of modern geopolitics, especially the United States' role in it. Today, the world feels like a powder keg. Any number of wars could be spread beyond their borders and spark World War III. Not exactly a great place to be. And if a third world war breaks out, it'll be Kissinger's world it breaks out into. Henry Kissinger himself died at age 100 in 2023. Maybe the ghost of Anthony Bourdain finally returned for some well-earned payback. But the impacts of Kissinger's sociopathic approach to geopolitics still have nothing on the potential apocalypse our ultimate historical monster has set up for us. Number 1. The Destroyer of Worlds takes our top spot. It's a nickname J. Robert Oppenheimer gave himself after witnessing the bomb he built, which annihilated tens of thousands in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in mere seconds. While you may remember Oppenheimer most recently for his box office war with Barbie, his true claim to fame is playing part in the end of World War II and the beginning of the endless nuclear Cold War we all live under now. And it was all thanks to his handy little creation, the atom bomb. We've seen some truly monstrous killers in this video, but none of them even come close to the sheer efficiency of death that Robert Oppenheimer's invention allows. He opened a door that can never be closed, making himself an unconventional but understandable answer to the question, who is the worst person in history? Around 110,000 people were killed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Nuclear tests since Oppenheimer's invention have killed as many as 460,000 people. We all live under the constant threat of nuclear annihilation, and life is even worse for people living in oppressive regimes like Russia or North Korea, where the nuclear stockpiles of the country help keep the leaders of those governments in place. And this is where Oppenheimer truly sets himself apart from everyone else on this list. There are around 12,300 nuclear warheads between the 9 nuclear states. Each weapon is an order of magnitude more powerful than their World War II equivalent. And on the slim chance that climate change doesn't get us first, the actions of J. Robert Oppenheimer have the greatest chance of ending life on Earth with one bad choice. So how do you become the destroyer of worlds? Watch The Man Who Created the Deadliest Weapon in History, J. Robert Oppenheimer and the Atomic Bomb, to see the story behind it, or click on this video instead.